Hello, my name's Kevin Goodman, and I work for the Department of Child Services in Lawrence County. And let me just specify that's for the state of Indiana. I've been with the department now for 6 years, well over 6 years, and my job is to investigate allegations of child abuse and child neglect. So let's say we get a report in that a child has suspicious bruises or has made a statement indicating that they have potentially been touched inappropriately. It's my job to go and locate that child and document any injury, determine what the course of action for the investigation would be for us, to liaison with law enforcement. And that would usually entail talking to the kid, potentially arranging for a forensic interview. And I'm also a certified forensic interviewer. And of course, talking to parents, caregivers, household members, and the alleged perpetrator. So that's what my job is. First 2.5 years on the job, I felt like I was supported by management and empowered to do my job. The better part of the last 4 years has been with a lot of uncertainty. So the reason I'm here today is I believe I've experienced abuses of power, and I've tried the traditional routes to bring them to attention to the proper authorities. I don't think it's worked. So therefore, I'm going to make a public statement, and I'm going to hope that Governor Holcomb will listen to me and take me seriously and listen to the evidence I have to present. And I'll just start by saying that this is of interest to the general public because we do investigate child abuse and child neglect, and things were done and strings were pulled from above me, from higher powers, that I believe out of resentment endangered child abuse and child neglect investigations. I believe that things were done that's cost the state thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And also, I believe that there's been a lack of accountability in management regarding the matters I'm reporting on. So I initially intended to make one long video, and what I've discovered is that I can't do that with the length of material I have to present in a matter that is going to present with the quality in which I want to present it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to break this up. There'll probably be 4 or 5 videos. And this is still an ongoing and still pending matter. I'm still with the department. And I kind of imagine that this video series probably won't be wrapped up until the end of this year, unless I'm able to resolve my differences with the state and encourage or motivate Governor Holcomb to take effective action. So that is why we're here. So in September of 2017, my career changed. And it all changed because I faced hostility from a certain person in the office. A typical interaction with this person would be I would pass her in the hallway, I would say hi, and she would say, "Get out of my way, Kevin. Some of us are trying to work." It was sneering. She took any opportunity she could to belittle me and meetings and whatnot. And it was just outwardly and blatantly hostile. I didn't know what I did to this person. I had no idea. I try to be nice to everybody. And I definitely don't try to undermine people. So to me, I didn't know where this was coming from. But it crossed the line when I had coworkers telling me that this person was telling people I was in sexual relations with other people outside of my marriage. And also that me and my wife were in an open relationship and that we were swingers. So this person had no inside intimate knowledge of my life. So normally something like that would not really bother me. I've got pretty thick skin, so I know what the truth is. I don't necessarily care a whole lot what someone else is saying. But when you combine that with just the outward hostility, it crossed the line. And I went home from work that day and I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more upset I got about it. And I ended up writing a complaint letter that I was going to submit to management or to HR. And I went to work the next day prepared to do that. But I also had knowledge of a similar incident where the person got fired. And I didn't really necessarily want this for this person either. I just wanted it to stop. I think it's worth pointing out that I worked in harmony with this person for a little while. The hostility kind of just developed in the latter months of 2017. So I ended up going to this person, gave them the letter and said, why should I not submit this? And, I actually contemplated releasing that audio while I recorded the interaction. So I contemplated releasing the audio here in this. The state has a copy, and I'm going to opt not to, because my beef at this point is not with this person. It's with management and how things were handled afterwards and what happened to me as a result of this. But I'm going to summarize it as fairly as I can. So essentially this person acknowledged that they don't like me and just point blank said that they didn't like me and said that they didn't have to like me, that they weren't required to like me to do their job. That was how this began. This confrontation began. This person admitted to saying these things about my sex life. They said they were joking, so that was supposed to make it okay. But then she became upset and cried and pleaded with me not to submit this complaint. And I just said it had to stop. That's all. It had to stop. If this stops, yeah, I won't complain, but it's got to stop. That was my only condition. We agreed on that. And then it came out, like she told me in the beginning that she didn't like me because I acted better than everybody else. So towards the end, what we got was she didn't like me because she wanted to be the designated sex abuse specialist, and that went to me. She wanted to be a field trainer, and that went to me. And that ultimately was the reason why she acted the way she did towards me. At any rate, other people overheard the confrontation and it got reported to management. Okay, so the argument's overheard. Third parties report to management that there's some conflict between me and this person. Consequently, me and this person are independently called into management to explain what happened. So I go into this meeting knowing that I'm going to have to say what happened, and I have legitimate concern that this person's now going to get fired when I thought that we had resolved our differences. The meeting was unusual. I felt like it was adversarial towards me. One thing that came out of the meeting was that they wanted to know if I use a personal device or state device to make the recording. I did use my own device. I have my own recorder. I provided a copy of the recording to management. I forwarded it from my personal email to my work email so I could then forward it to management. So at any rate, I'm told after this by a member of management that the issue at hand is that I have some level of authority in the office, and I'm an older male and this person's a younger female, and maybe I abuse my authority. So I'm super confused. That makes no sense to me. And a pre-deprivation meeting was called by the regional manager. A pre-deprivation meeting is a big deal because if you're going to get fired, you have a pre-deprivation meeting usually. So the regional manager convenes this pre-deprivation meeting, and I'm told that the same thing, that maybe I should have been more lenient, and this is almost verbatim, more lenient towards this colleague because she was a younger, lesser experienced female. I was asked, do I really want to get rid of another assessment worker because we're so busy? That didn't really sit well with me, either of those, because it told me that there was a double standard, that if you're younger and female, you can evidently get away with a little bit more. I mean, that's what that communicates. Not that I believe that, but that's what the regional manager's message communicated to me. And I felt kind of baited going into this because I had to defend myself, that I approached her as a colleague, not as a supervisor. I don't know how that was ever twisted like that. So at any rate, during this whole thing, my phone is confiscated. The regional manager says she needs to investigate a little bit before a decision is made. She tells me she needs my phone so that she can listen to the recording. Keep in mind, I've already emailed this to members of management, so it doesn't make sense to me, especially since that wasn't the source of the original recording. Now, our phones are extremely important in our line of work. We have to go to environments that are potentially hostile. We live in a rural community, so sometimes we're in remote locations. We're issued iPhones, and we use our iPhones to take forensic photographs that we enter into evidence. That's a major use of the phone. We also use our phone to access our database on the fly, so we can read reports, maybe do background checks, or get potential addresses, doing research through the database. So it really helps us on the go. In training, we're told never to use our personal phone to take photographs, because that automatically puts confidential data on our personal device. We're also told that it makes our personal phone discoverable, so we're not supposed to take photographs on their personal phone. Now, I do have a personal phone. It's AT&T, and I've had AT&T forever. Our work phones are with Verizon, so one issue is that Verizon has much better coverage in the more remote areas of our county than my personal phone. So at any rate, through this time frame, a total of 7 days passed, but through this time frame, I requested multiple times to be put on desk duty because I didn't feel that I could effectively or safely do my job without my work-issued cell phone. Not only am I not put on desk duty, I am assigned an immediate response sex abuse case. The father was the alleged perpetrator, live in the home. I've got 1 hour to respond by statute. And also part of the allegations were home conditions. Now, we always refer these cases to law enforcement. In this particular case, law enforcement wasn't immediately available to go out with me. And if that's the case, I still have to try to initiate that within our statutory time frame. So if the police can't go with me, I still got to go. Anyhow, this was in a remote location, and I get out there, and I realize that my personal cell phone does not have reception. And fortunately, there was nothing to the report. But imagine had there been something to the report. What if I got out there and the parents are hostile? What if I get out there and I get the child to disclose to me that this happened? I need a permission to remove a kid. So, then I would be stuck in this situation where this child is at imminent risk and I'm unable to get permission because I don't have a phone that works, has reception. That puts a big dilemma onto me. Do I risk, my own career and remove this kid without permission, or do I leave this kid in danger? I mean, obviously, if that happened, I would have removed. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. I didn't find any merit to it. But also, what if the home conditions were really poor? Well, if there was like fecal matter embedded in the carpet, which I've seen multiple times, I would have had no means to document that. So we would have lost evidence. So fortunately, everything checked out okay. But, I want you to think about that. So we use our phones to document what we see and do. And we also work in a semi-emergency capacity, and we deal with dangerous environments, and we do deal with life and death situations in some cases. So they put me out there to do this with no tools, and with me expressively asking multiple times for desk duty. It makes no sense to me why I didn't get put on desk duty. They made me go out there and do this job. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, but something bad could have happened, and it was highly irresponsible. Anyhow, so that's the first time I believe that someone from above, because of spite or something, endangered a child welfare investigation. But at any rate, the meeting was reconvened 7 days later. I was given my phone back, and I was given a reprimand. It was written very generically, and it quoted me, and it misquoted me. But the reprimand, in essence, said that I threatened my coworker because she made false allegations against me. And I took a huge issue with this because, if you're an outside person reading this in my personnel file, what are you going to think when you hear, I threatened this person? It doesn't put it into context. So, what comes to my mind is it looks like I physically threatened a person, which I definitely didn't do. And then you hear the words allegations, and allegations implies misconduct. And, I'm just saying that, my sex life, my personal sex life, is not workplace misconduct unless it happens in the workplace. So there was no misconduct there. So I take issue of the fact that it was written to imply that I threatened a person because they threatened to expose misconduct. That simply wasn't the case. And I believe the only way the regional manager could get this to work was to word it like that, because if you took what was really said and what was really in play here, you would have me saying I threatened my coworker as a colleague, I threatened to report her for harassment. I think, when you say threaten, I think it's important to say what you're threatening to do. In that case, I was threatening to report her, and I was threatening to report her for harassment, which included, among other things, sexual harassment. So, the truncated form of this reprimand made it look really bad on me in a way that, just wasn't accurate. And I think that's the only way that she can make it fly. But at any rate, I wasn't fired. Maybe I should have been happy, but I was, upset because none of this made sense to me. I try to be nice to this person. I'm the one that is getting treated horribly by this person, having things said about their private lives. It's not true. Nobody deserves that. Nobody should have to experience that in the workplace. And we have a professional career, and it's a hard job. I should expect a certain level of professionalism from my colleagues. So to me, this didn't make any sense. And because of the comments that she made about me having, that I should have been more lenient because she was a lesser experienced female, prompted me to call the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, which is a state agency. I didn't call to make a complaint. I didn't know the law, and I called to get informed, basically. So I kind of explained everything I just said here. And the response I got was, no, they can't do that. That's wrong. They can't say that. And the investigator told me, we're going to refer this to the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, because there was a reference to age in there, and we don't have jurisdiction over age. But yeah, that's definitely not right. So they wrote my complaint out, and they put it in a format that they call a charge, and they sent it to me to sign, and then it was upon me to send that to the EEOC. Meanwhile, I'm a state employee. I'm a classified employee. So that means my job is funded in part by the federal government, and as a consequence, the department has to provide me with due process rights on disciplinary matters. I can only be disciplined for just cause. So I filed an appeal to the reprimand. There's 3 levels in the appeal process. The first one goes to the head of the agency, usually someone that she picks to represent her. I got a blanket denial at stage 1, and I've known other people to go through the process. Everybody seems to get a blanket denial at that state. And honestly, I would like to know if anybody is ever successful at that level of getting a reprimand or some disciplinary action overturned, because it seems to me like it's just a blanket denial. And I mean, someone should actually be looking at these complaints and considering it from the perspective that maybe the agency is wrong. But at any rate, so then I file the stage 2 appeal, and at stage 2, you appeal to the State Personnel Department. Well, SPD, State Personnel Department, responds back and says, we will remove this reprimand from your record if you agree to end the civil rights complaint with the EEOC. I said I need some guarantees that things are going to change, that that I'm going to be protected, that I'm not going to be retaliated against. Really, I just wanted dialogue is all I wanted. I wanted some communication about what had happened. I was just point blank told that the offer was good until, I think it was like the next day at a certain time. And if I didn't accept, they would deny my appeal. I wasn't satisfied with that because I wanted some discussion. And so my appeal was denied. And then I went before the SEAC, and that's really what I wanted. I wanted a hearing. And the SEAC is the State Employee Appeals Commission. It's established through Indiana Code. It's actually a civil law court with extremely limited jurisdiction. They can overturn disciplinary action. That's all they can do. That's the only thing the SEAC can do. But it is held according to Indiana trial rules, rules of evidence. So it is a court. At any rate, I just wanted a hearing because I felt like none of this made sense, and I wanted to bring it out into the open. DCS at this point in time simply removed the reprimand from my record. They replaced it with a written counseling. And written counseling is something that goes in your personnel file, but is considered non-disciplinarian. And in this case, they made a point in telling me that the written counseling was also expired because it's only good for the year it's written, so it didn't even go in my personnel file. So essentially, they removed the reprimand, they replaced it with this written counseling, which actually didn't exist. It was just them saying that. And then, consequently, the SEAC no longer had jurisdiction because I was no longer facing disciplinary action. I find it extremely interesting, though, that, I mean, like, they still have to go after this, like, symbolic victory of the non-existent letter of counseling. At any rate, it's clear that when this got to the State Personnel Department, they recognized that they were wrong, that DCS was wrong. That's why they offered to remove the reprimand if I agreed not to pursue my complaints any further with the Civil Rights Commission and the EEOC. And the state did too. They didn't even give me an opportunity to argue. They just removed it from under my feet, which I guess is a good thing, but they also took away my ability to have a public hearing on the matter. So that's how the that's what I initially experienced. So before DCS removed the reprimand and pulled the rug out from under my SEAC complaint, one of my complaints with the SEAC filing was that the regional manager misrepresented what I said to an extent enough, and in an official proceeding such that constituted official misconduct. And at any rate, the SEAC judge did respond in a footnote saying that SEAC doesn't have jurisdiction over criminal matters, and that I should report my complaint to the local prosecutor's office or the inspector general. So I work very closely with the prosecutor's office in our county and with the judges. Honestly, I wanted to keep this private to a certain extent. So I did forward the complaint to the inspector general. And the inspector general's office simply stated that they decline to investigate anything that's before the SEAC. So I want to end it for right now on this, though. The state knew they were wrong. State Personnel Department quickly offered to remove it from my record on condition that I, in my civil rights complaint, I wanted some dialogue. Honestly, I wanted an apology. I don't know why that's so hard. Either way, I'm not getting an apology and I'm not getting dialogue. but the state knew they were wrong. It gets to the next level, and we go before the SEAC. I want a hearing. That's what I'm pressing for. And the state just removes the reprimand. They would only do that if they realized they were wrong. And I guess my issue here is that at that time, I tried really hard to have a conversation with management. Nobody would talk to me. And I'm just looking for dialogue. I was at that point, and I'm still looking for dialogue. But at any rate, I just want to know how it got to that point. Why, why did it get to that point? Why didn't anybody, at the DCS level listen to me before we went to the SPD level? I was, frankly angry how things were misrepresented. So think about this. You go to work and your colleague is telling other people that, you are having an affair. But it's not really an affair because you guys are swingers. This person doesn't like you. And you go and confront them about it and say, hey, this has to stop. And the next thing you know, you're getting in trouble and things are getting all distorted and you're being accused of something that you don't even really understand, and getting in trouble, and then you get this really blank, vague reprimand because that's the only way they can make it work. It didn't make any sense. At any rate, I tried to get dialogue on the matter. Nobody would talk to me. So you would think it would have ended with that. It didn't. And, if I was a higher level manager, and, I had an employee that went through that and was reprimanded on matters that we couldn't uphold, and I had a mid-level supervisor violate our civil rights laws and the way it was handled, I would want to make sure that the employee who was violated was made comfortable and made to feel that they could trust the system again, to restore, what they were before all this happened. That's not what happened. Instead, I faced systemic, jabs, so to speak, which I don't really want to go into right now because we're going to bring this video to a conclusion. As I said, it's going to take some time for me to elaborate everything, but I'm going to have another episode of this. I'm going to aim for the middle of July. And what I want to do is try to speak my side, but provide some evidence to support it. And really, hopefully, and it's unfortunate that it has to come to this, but either I'm going to get fired for going public or someone's going to talk to me and take me seriously, and we're going to have a real conversation. It's going to go back and forth and not just one-sided. Someone's got to answer for how things have happened. So that's where we're at. Thank you.